Assalamu alaikum, Gambia, friends of the Gambia, viewers. I greet you all. Thank you. Today, I want to talk about a specific topic area that is called conflict resolution and peace building. When we talk about conflict, we would basically say anything in the absence of peace would be regarded as a conflict. And as a people, how do we reach to the level of conflicts before we start to resolve them? Basically, we have to look at the core components and the causes of conflict in Africa or all over the world. That is why I came up with the title Conflict Resolution and Peace Building. If we would like to examine these things into a broader perspective, we're gonna look at what is peace and conflict resolution. So when you talk about conflict resolution and peace building, we are talking about peace and conflict resolution, which is a field of study that examines how violence and conflict can be prevented or resolved through various approaches and strategies that we use. Some of these approaches include peacekeeping, peace building, as well as peacemaking. When we think about the world in this day and age, there is so much conflict all over the world. There is chaos all over the world, and we as a people, whether you're in the Gambia, Asia, in the Arab world, the Middle East, these are something that are very fundamental in our lives or daily lives. So peacekeeping would aim to maintaining negative peace or the absence of direct violence, where peace building and peacemaking seek to create positive peace or the presence of justice and human rights. So these are very, very important as a people when we look at why do we have conflict in the world. And we come to a point, to a realization that these are key components that we need to talk about. Peace and conflict studies is also an interdisciplinary field that aims to understand the causes of conflict, both violence and non-violence, and to develop strategies for resolving them. We know everywhere in the world there is conflict. And what we regard as conflict doesn't mean necessarily taking arms on one another and try to cause mayhem, destruction, and untold suffering to the masses of the people. But conflict of the mind, corruption, and its associate can all be regarded as conflict. So conflict resolution is a social science field that draws on a variety of disciplines such as philosophy, political science, geology, economics, psychology, communication studies, sociology, international relations, history, anthropology, religious studies, gender studies, law and development studies. All of these can be looked at in a different way and manner. So when we look at the field of peace and conflict studies can be also divided into two main areas: conflict analysis and resolution and peace study. Because wherever we have conflict, we have to categorize that what kind of conflict these things are, and in order to try to analyze them. So while conflict analysis and resolution focuses on identifying and analyzing violent and non-violent behaviors, as well as the structural mechanism attending conflicts, include social conflicts, which, or with a view towards understanding those processes which lead to a more desirable human conditions. So while peace study, when you look at that one would touch based on the interdisciplinary effort aiming at the prevention, de-escalation, and solution of conflicts by peaceful means. So we have to look at things, because today we talk about so many trivial issues, but we do not talk about how we need to curb conflict, how we need to resolve conflict, and what mechanisms should be available to the society in order to make sure that, you know, there is no social dysfunctions and other ways that can endanger the life of the people. So some of the causes of conflicts in Africa, where we come from, we will make emphasis on the African perspective. So we know our individual countries are divided or demarcated through borders. So arbitrary border created by the colonial powers that divided ethnic groups and ignore cultural differences results of conflict also. Also the heterogeneous ethnic composition of African states that led to ethnic rivalry and discrimination. That could also lead to conflict in Africa. Because Africa has a diverse culture, they have a tradition, and those traditions all have cultures. So with all these varieties of cultures in there, one may look at more superior to the other, and in the event there is bound to be social conflict emerging. So another forms of conflict in Africa is our inept political leadership, corruption, bad governance, and human rights violation that fuel resentment and opposition. When you look at in Africa today, most people and many of the areas in the Gambia, especially in the Gambia where I come from, are inept political leadership, corruption, bad governance, and human rights violation that fuel resentment and opposition can lead to a wider form of conflict in our countries when we do not keep these things checked. Because we have seen time and time again, our institutions that we have in our various countries have been found wanting in so many aspects of their functionalities. Whether the people who are chosen to be in charge of these institutions do not have the education, they do not have the skill set or the technical know-how to run the affairs of those countries, that would lead to an ineptitude. When you look at the level of bad governance also, that is another huge fundamental problems of our conflicts that would come to in our various countries, especially in Africa. Corruption and human rights violations. People will speak against the government, whether right or wrong, for obvious reason. The leaders would just try to encroach upon their rights and liberties and their fundamental freedom of speech, put them behind bars. And if these things are not checked properly in our various countries, it can also put the country into a huge resentment from the status quo, and at the end of the day, those countries would plunge into conflict. And also, both social and economics disparities can make other people, the less disadvantaged people, to also rise up and try to do some unthinkable things that could also lead to a huge and gross conflict or violations within the country. So, military intervention, persecution, oppressions, and demand for democracy that sparks violence and resistance. All of these can lead into conflict if it is not properly checked in our various countries. Therefore, as a people, wherever we are, we have to always keep preaching peace within our means, wherever we are. But in order to preach peace, you have to be peaceful yourself, to make sure that you respect the rights and fundamental liberties of the people you govern. In that way, if you would come out to speak to them, those people would try to listen, because we know you have to live by example. But today, in our countries, in the Gambia, we have seen so many encroachment of freedom of speech, violation of rights and liberties, and those are the sort of things that could also spark conflict in our various countries. Today you look at Palestine and Israel. Since after the First World War, 1948, so after the abolition of the Holocaust, there was an international pressure for people to establish the state of Israel in Palestine. Since then, there has been so many different issues between those two countries, and up to today, fast forward, what we are seeing there is unthinkable. It is genocide, and many people would not call things the way they are. So the effects of conflicts can be far-reaching and long-lasting. But today we want to discuss a few problems, examples of those conflict resolution. Conflicts can be very costly because it could lead into so many bad things. The effects of conflict, you look at it, number one, also can be linked to displacement of people. If you live in the Gambian region, God forbid, if there is a conflict within the sub-region of the Gambia, you would leave everything behind and move to either neighboring Senegal to seek for refuge, because you want to be at peace. There is nothing quite like peace, and therefore the little peace you have, people should always try to cherish it. That is why conflict can lead to displacement of people. Conflict can lead to the displacement of people from their homes, resulting in refugee crisis. And this can lead to loss of property, livelihood, and social network. Because in the absence of peace, there is bound to be so many bad things that are happening. So therefore, you would not be thinking about the worldly material stuff. Economic impact. When there is a conflict in so many countries, the economy would be at stake. Conflict can have a significant impact on the economy of a country. It can lead to a decline in economic growth, increased poverty, and reduced access to basic services such as healthcare and education. Wherever there is war, those people don't think about going to school or to have a proper healthcare, because all of these social services would become destroyed. So this is why peace and conflict resolutions is very important. Environmental impact. Conflict can also have an impact on the environment. It can lead to deforestation, soil erosion, and pollution. Because whenever we have military actions, there are heavy machinery moving from one region to another, will try to have a huge degradation on the soil. And when it rains, all those top soil will loosen up and it would all be eroded away. And also, if we have gas chambers and gas lines anywhere, if there is conflict within our midst, those things are destroyed in such a magnitude that they cannot just sustain, and the air would be polluted all over, or you can have oil spill on the waters. This is why environmentally war is not good as much as conflict is not good. So the psychological impact, that also is very huge. Conflict can have a profound psychological impact on individuals. It can lead to trauma, depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. Because wherever there is a conflict, people are bound to be killing other people in large numbers in a most brutal manner without being remorseful. So such a thing would have to stick in your mind for the longest time, and that could cause anxiety, trauma, and other mental illness when you think about it. People will be seriously traumatized. Political instability. Conflict can lead to that. By and large, by nature, it would lead to instability and the collapse of a government institution. All of these are such that, we have to be very careful to see how we try to resolve and maintain the little peace that we have all over the world, most importantly in the West African sub-region. Because we know anytime there is conflict, there is bound to be more poverty driven. Because Africa, with all our resources out there, we cannot afford to have those resources be put into things like conflict, war, and the likes. Because the little that we have there will all be dissipated if we are not too careful. Human rights violation. Conflict would also lead to human rights violation. Because at war, there are some people who do not respect the protocols of human decency and integrity. So it can lead to right violations such as torture, rape, and the extrajudicial killing of people, which is condemned by the whole world. And also checking at the importance to note that these are just a few effects of conflicts, and also the actual impact of conflict can vary depending on the specific context where we put it on. So again, looking at the groups of conflict, they could be grouped or grounded as follows. Boundary conflict. We did talk about the conflict within our boundaries, because our borders are demarcated in such a way that sometimes if we do not have demarcations or boundaries there, it can lead to so many problems. So African state frontiers which are more fluid, that they are more fluid. At independence, as thousands of economic and political refugees move around the continent, people would invade, leave from one region and go into another region. In the Gambia, the classical example of this is moving from the Gambia, going through the Casamance regions, and also through the Senegalese borders. So when you look at all of these things, they have a huge impact on the life and livelihood of the people who live around those walls. Conflict governance. When we look at that one, like conflict governance, the state dictatorship trying to sow up ethnic atrocities. That is so bad. We have seen Rwanda, where the Hutus and the Tutsis have clashed together, and the amount of people who have died in those wars is uncountable. So the conflict governance, it's a very bad thing, where the ethnic atrocities are under attack by increasingly malicious or militant oppositions groups encouraged by both external and internal pro-democracy and human rights organizations. We do not have a semblance of this in the Gambia though, but the classical example of this group would be when the Rwanda and Tutsi. In Rwanda, Hutu and the Tutsi people start to clash. Those kind of conflict are not good at all. Conflict of economic development. The economic sovereignty of African states, never strong before. It's never strong before. It's been almost terminally undermined by pressures to join regional trading blocs. So these are also fundamental. The conflicts also includes the crisis of productions and distribution of resources and the competition arising therefrom. So we know every African country is endowed with their own natural resources, and at the end of the day, the more the natural resources within your area, the more conflict, likelihood of conflict being perpetrated in your area, because there would be other big actors who would also want to benefit from that, and there they begin to offer you with some kind of money, and at the end of the day, that would attract the neighboring country to be in kind of in a jealousy mood. And if you are not too careful, the cross-border trading partnership would cause problem between interstate countries also. So looking at it as well, conflict arising from militarization of the society, abundance of weaponry and trained soldiers, untrained volunteers available to any would-be warlord with resources and determination. So these are all factors, like you have a faction group of people, they would want to try to train people so that they would be loyal to them, and at the end of the day, this can be a very big problem. So, conflict resolution or prevention in Africa. What can we do as a people to try to prevent some of these wars or conflict or petty hit and runs that we have, or militia groups that we have within our borders or backyards? So at the end of the day, we can try to say, hold on a second. Excuse me. So, promoting dialogue is a crucial step in preventing conflicts. Well, it is very important as a country or as a people, wherever we are, before we start to analyze what the problems are. Basically, we have to look at the root cause of those problems and we try to prevent them. We can use representative use examples that are typical to the topic you are discussing. So those are very important in the way and manner we have to deal with things, because without relating to the people who are having conflict, and you use basic examples that are within their own dialect and context, they would not be able to relate to you. We can also use inclusive example and language. We would not take things for granted by thinking that they know, or the audience that we are sharing our experience of views do know what those views represent. Also, we can ground dialogues in scenes. Every conversation that takes place needs to be somewhere. Or the location, the scene makes a difference to the actual dialogue. We would always have to think about the character, who the characters are, and who are always nearby. Because in conflict resolutions and preventing conflict, you have to facilitate effective group discussions so that people could come and discuss among themselves to make the people to own those groups in recognition and employment of different perspectives and different skills to create an inclusive environment. Because when conflict evolves, you need to involve people to be part of those things and try to give examples and why they think they should be part of those groups and what they think could better resolve those conflict than somebody imposing ideas on them. To do so, it is important to consider the features of effective discussions in conditions that promote small groups, interactions, and engagements that I have just said. Also, we can teach students how to have a conversation. We can teach people to make a point of having one-to-one minute interactions, or a one-to-one at least a few times each week with students who struggle conversationally. Share information about themselves, or you can share information about yourself as you might when meeting a friend or acquaintances, and show interest in the student by asking questions about his or her interest. So that is what I'm saying. Relatability is very important, because when you start to relate to the people that you are trying to target in order to resolve their problem, you have to relate to them as to what their likings are in terms of sports and so many other things. So there are other sectors that you can look in order to try to resolve conflicts by fostering mutual understanding and respect among people of different cultures. So in that way, you have to create opportunities for interactions. encourage people from different cultures to interact with each other. This can be done through cultural events, language exchange, programs, and community service projects. Because sometimes things that may necessarily be in your language would totally be different in another language. This is why, based on our heterogeneous nature and the diverse nature of the languages that we speak, most people would just be very okay when you try to use examples that can have a good meaning to them than try to use something that they do not understand. And open-mindedness is very important, and respect. We have to approach intercultural dialogue with an open mind and a willingness to learn, respect the difference between cultures, and avoid making assumptions. So all of these things, when we look at stuff like that, we are bound to resolve some of the conflicts, because sometimes misunderstanding in our various different cultures and languages that we speak, we take things for granted without knowing the core value and the value system of someone's culture, and that could bring friction here and there. So in order to avoid all of that, we have to be open-minded and be respectful and be diverse in our own thinking and approaches when it comes to conflict resolution. We have to listen actively to what others have to say, and also try to understand their perspective. We can ask questions or to clarify how we understand those things in order to interact with them or have them say what they want to say. In that way, somebody would not be perceived wrongly. There we are able to make good dialogue and conversation, and there wouldn't be conflict. We also need to be patient, because patience and perseverance is very important. It's a key component. Building relationship across cultures also takes time and effort. We have to be patient and persistent in the effort we use to promote intercultural dialogue. In that way, if I am patient enough, perhaps I would learn something new about your culture, and you will learn something about my culture, and there would not be any conflict here and there. And in Africa, just like I said, we come from a heterogeneous family where our cultures are way, way too different, and they are very vast. And a most common man in Africa can speak at least from 5 to 7 languages. So you can see how diverse those things are. So that requires a lot of patience and perseverance. In order to avoid conflict also, we just have to learn about other cultures. We have to educate ourselves about the culture, the custom and traditions, and the belief of other cultures. This can help you understand and appreciate the difference between cultures. Once we do this thing, we cannot just take things for granted and mean that, oh, if you are from Gambia, so you are a Mandingo, so therefore everything that a Mandingo does must go and sit well with somebody who is a Wolof or a Fula or Jola. So we have our own interpersonal cultures and traditions, even though we might come from the same country. But if, for instance, we come from different cultures or different countries, this would become more cumbersome, and it needs to be very much looked at with care. If not, there would always be misconception, misperception, and misunderstanding, and that could also lead to conflict. So we can also use technologies to connect people. Technology can be a very powerful tool to also promote intercultural dialogue, like the social media here. Somebody from Asia or India can be able to skillfully and properly communicate with somebody who is from Africa, you know. And other online tools can also help people from different cultures connect and communicate with each other. So in this way, the people meet one another on social media are bound to explain their cultures better to one another for them to be well understood than to bring about conflict in the world. Another way to promote, to prevent conflict is at workplace, creating a positive and productive work environment. In order to do that, we still have to create a culture of inclusivity. You have to involve people wherever they are, encourage open communication, respect, and collaboration among employees. That is also a key component to making sure that there is no misunderstanding, a proper line of communication is drawn, and people are listened to, respected, and valued. And at the end of the day, this would also foster an environment where everyone feels valued and respected, and there wouldn't be misunderstanding among the co-workers. Recruit a diverse workforce. When we do this, we are also able to enhance productivity, because if you recruit a diverse workforce, you ensure that the recruitment process is inclusive and attracts candidates from diverse backgrounds. This can help create a more diverse and inclusive workforce, and whereby you can see the productivity of your workforce would be the very best, because you have tapped the resources from different parts of the world, and that social cohesiveness would be very, very prudent in your workforce there. So that is also another manner to stop conflict in our workplace. Offer flexible work arrangements. That too, because we have so many other people with different issues. We have people with different other workload on them, either ranging from childcare to other things. So if you are able to understand them, their mindset and what they are going through, you create a flexible work arrangement with them that would provide flexible work arrangement that accommodates the needs of the employees from diverse backgrounds. This can also create a more inclusive workforce and improve work-life balance, because people have so many things, like a single mother who doesn't have someone who has to take care of a child at home. If you try to be very inclusive and create a flexible work arrangement with that person, it becomes very good, because not only they are able to also take care of their kids at home, but they would be willing to come and work, and their productivity would be enhanced. We can also promote that by encouraging employee resource groups. That could also bridge a gap to make sure that we do not have too much conflict within our workplace. Employee resource groups can provide a supportive environment for employees of these groups and provide support for their activities. There they would be able to better utilize their potentials very well, and tell and speak for themselves when they need to, whether they need a time off or so. So we also have to hold leaders accountable. This is a very significant component. Anywhere you work, whether it's a household, whether it is a hospital, whether it is a municipal council, whether also it is a government, people need to be accountable for what they do, because we put these people in positions with the expectations that they are supposed to live above and beyond, and to be very efficient in their service delivery to the people. So therefore, wherever position you might be in, whether you are a president or whatsoever, or the chairman running a council, we have to hold leaders accountable, and so that leaders are held accountable for promoting diversity and inclusion in the workforce or in our workplace. This can create a culture of inclusivity, and so the diversity and inclusion are a priority for the organization. We do not want to have an organization which would have only one set of group of people, or an organization where people turn the place into their family enterprise or to be a common heritage. Those are not important. They are not good. So wherever you are, the positions that we hold should be there for the service delivery of the people that we serve. Another one would be hold on a second. Yeah, again, like I was saying, we have to promote gender equality in workplace. It is very crucial to provide this, because it would also create a crucial, positive, and productive work environment. Again, create a culture of inclusivity, encourage open communication, respect, and collaboration among people, just like how I said it earlier on. Offer flexible work arrangements that I have said. I also encourage employees resource groups, that one too. But then that one too, you have to hold our leaders accountable in a way and manner. They are there for what they are there for. We have to promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace in a way and manner. These are also very similar in nature, but at the end of the day, wherever you put people in, you expect that they function above and beyond. Anything less would be regarded as, an understatement, because you do not want to put people in places that they would not perform or outshine themselves. Gender equality is very, very important, because if you are a manager, you would have to hire as more men as opposed to women. The ratio of men to women should be as equal to 5:5, because sometimes we see the inequality gap in our roles and responsibility that would also lead to conflict. And when we make cognizant of these facts, when you are hiring, if you hire 3 men, you hire 4 women. In that case, at the end of the day, there would be productivity in those areas, and those set of group of people would feel very much valued as well. Again, looking at few areas that would also bridge the gap of workplace violence and violence in general term, in our places, in our workplaces, and in our government. So essentially, talking about conflict resolution, we are talking about basically, why do we resolve something that we could only address in a way? Hold on. Yeah. So, in looking at those kind of things, we have to be careful and mindful. Looking at things to know that institutional dysfunctionalities in our countries. For instance, let us talk about the Gambia. We have a country. We have branches of governments, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. All of this we expect to be totally independent of one another. We do not want any of these branches to be trying to influence the power of the other. Predominantly when you look at Africa as a country, because the executive would try to dominate all the other areas, trying to have a say in how the judiciary work, how the legislature work, and how the other organs and governments and their line ministries would work. But we do not want too much interference, because we believe, I believe, if we have division of labor and specialization, everybody to the potential of their knowledge base or technical know-how, what they can do and provide for the people of their institution or country, you will see that without undue interference, at the end of the day, those people would at least produce something in the service delivery of that country. Example, you look at our health sector. Not only do we have capable people in those units, institutions, but those people have also have lapses in the way and manner they run our health sector, where the resources which are there not so much in abundance, not available in the way and manner they would like to have it, but just because of the complacency and the ineptness of the people that are running those institutions, they would not try to make their demands known to the government, so that the people who they are there to serve and provide those service delivery are taken care of. So at the end of the day, you look at it, most people in those in the health sector would even try to embark on stealing some of the little resources that are there and taking them, siphoning them into their own personal pharmacies, which is not good. You look at our education. Our education, the cream of any society is their own education. Because if you do not have a proper functioning education sector, the youth of that country would never move forward, because they would be undervalued. At the end of the day, you look at that kind of a country, it means that that country would be delayed. A delayed country is a country where, when people are in the 21st century, that country would be living in the 80s or in the 70s. So you can see, this is why it is very significant trying to put people in the right places, so that their mindset, their innovativeness, their creativity would match with what we have on the ground as a 21st century people. Because that is how our education can also try to flourish from the dark ages that it has found itself up till now. We want people to engage themselves to try to put these things and give it to the right people. Because if you put the wrong people in institutions, there would be dysfunctionality. And those people, there would be conflict. This is why this topic, conflict resolution, is very paramount and important. We have to give the people what they can produce. What they can produce. Because you cannot put somebody in a position that they do not know nothing how to run those institutions. At the end of the day, the country and the people will suffer, because they cannot provide quality access healthcare to them. They cannot provide quality customer service because that is not their domain. They don't know about it. So in the Gambia, in order for Gambia to move forward from a country of being backward, we just have to put the right people in the right place. Look at our youthful population in the Gambia. In this day and age, if we have a country where all the people who are the cream of our society, the youth, would embark on going through the Mediterranean Sea and dying just like flies, it means that our country do not provide anything for them. There is nothing, no resources whatsoever. There is nothing where you can call that this is being an apprenticeship or this is a vocational thing where at the end of the day, if I go to this school, I can become something and I would be valued in my own country. Nothing, absolutely. So that country is delayed because the Gambia as a country since 1965, we cannot, up to today, provide even a bicycle. There are people they cannot even invent a motorcycle, a bicycle in the Gambia. So that society is gonna be so worrying in the sense that there is no future for the youths of the Gambia. The youths of the Gambia needs to have a creative job. They should be able to be in the Gambia to say that, okay, if I go to high school, finish that, I go to college or I go to university, at the end of my term, when I go to the job market, I should be able to have something that I can rely on and work hard for myself and to be able to maintain the upkeep of my family. Unless these things are available to the youth of the Gambia, the hopelessness will continue in our country simply because they feel like they cannot make it anywhere at home. You know? So this is why we are seeing even government civil servants are leaving that country and leaving the lucrative jobs and coming over here because there is no motivation, no nothing. It's only in fight. Yeah? So our youths, being the cream of our society, are not given their full potential. They are not valued in our own country because there is no job opportunity for them. The government is not creating jobs for them. And any governments that come would always try to put in their people in positions. Whether they qualify for such positions, they cannot. They just leave them there. So at the end of the day, those who are less disadvantaged, they do not have family members in such a position, would end up having no hope or no idea as to when they are even going to make it in the Gambia or to have a job. So these are some of the barriers that we have. And corruption in our own country. Corruption is a killer in the sense that those people who are identified to be corrupt in our institution have been promoted today in our country. People who have been mastermind of corruption and corrupt practices are championed as people of better heritage than people who are righteous and steadfast. That makes the soul of our country to be on hook, in the sense that at the end of the day, the Gambia cannot transcend to become a 21st century nation if we do not crack down on corruption and corrupt practices. Whosoever it might affect, if it affects your parent, they need to be dealt with accordingly, because corruption is another thing which can kill people in a large number. Simply because you being the health minister, you are there, you steal all the resources of a hospital. You're supposed to heal the people of a region. You don't do that, and a poor person from Fatoto, a poor person from Farababanta, where I came from, or a poor person who does not have the ability, the resources to even pay fare to come and attend the hospital, that person end up dying. It means that the blood of that person is in your hand. So these are some of the things. And we have seen of late in our country, the Gambia, many of our youths are involved in this backway journey simply because too much of government corruption, rampant corruption, nothing is being done about it. And parents who are there see other kids doing something different would also push their kids to go through the Mediterranean. And some of them may make it, and those who are not fortunate will die to be an artifact at the bottom of the sea. Just simply because you became so hopeless in your own country. You cannot make it there. You end up being an artifact lying at the bottom of the sea, hundreds of thousands of miles away from home. You end up dying at sea. So we have seen in our country, those mayors, chairmen, and other people that are working so hard in our country, they have a bitter resistance from the government, because we would expect the government of Mr. Adama Barrow should be a government where partisan politics should not come there. But this is the guy who doesn't know how the government is being run because of the lack of education and lack of knowing how modern states are being run. If a local council is able to found people who have squandered the resources of that region, especially in this case, Kanifing Municipal Council, and of late, recently, West Coast region. When we see this, the government should come and support those mayors to be like, we know, regardless of our political differences, but then these people must be dealt with. They have to account for every butut or penny that they have squandered, because that money doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to that government director or the local government finance director. It belongs to the people of West Coast region. What is so simple than that? Our governments need to step up their game and stop the political bickering or the cannibal backing and focus on something that would change the life of the Gambian people. Other than that, there is always going to be conflict. That's why before you arrest conflict, you have to stop conflict. How do we stop conflict? Those people who are in this institution getting corrupt from not on their money, but the state resources, needs to stop there. And everybody would be a stakeholder in fighting this corruption, starting from the president down. Even religious leaders need to talk, because you do not be so comfortable at your corner, at your mosque, you see somebody coming to give you money that you know, for very obvious reason, he does not have all that money, because at the end of the day, we know central government doesn't pay much money. So these are some of the ills in our society. Drug infiltration in our country. Drug is being pestered in our country. What is the government doing about it? And this government of Mr. Adama Barrow, oftentimes we just see anybody who is corrupt or being found to be doing corrupt practices, or somebody who is a social outcast involved in drug issues, those are the people Mr. Adama Barrow would elevate and put them into so many. That is where decency, morality, integrity becomes a zero entity in our country. Because one would expect in a decent society, in a society where morality and ethical consideration are put at the forefront of everything that we do in our life. Make no mistake, that is the right thing to do. We have to map out corruption and nip it in the bud from the get-go. But unless we do that, we cannot move forward as a country. We cannot move anywhere. The future of the Gambia becomes to be at stake in the sense that this regime, this government of Mr. Adama Barrow, have failed in so many fronts. It's not even funny. At the end of the day, we all know for obvious reason, if it is through strategic planning or thinking outside the box or having very good innovation and skill set to know that the people we see in Mr. Adama Barrow's government are not the people that are of very high caliber of reputation. Because if you as a person is corrupt, or even if you are not corrupt, but you are serving for a corrupt government, you are an accessory to that bad governance that is happening in that country. And as a people, we have to put decency at the forefront of everything we do. We have to be able to identify and say that this is wrong, and if it is wrong, why do I have to be part of it? You have to trust yourself. You have to be somebody who knows how to make a judgment call, because if you assist somebody in murdering, in killing somebody, you become an accessory. It's the same way and manner if you as a government civil servant, if as a minister, yesterday you condemn all the bad governance that were happening under Yahya Jammeh, and today Adama Barrow is doing the same thing and you continue to serve him. You are a disservice to country. It means you do not believe in anything, but probably, perhaps, you hated Yahya Jammeh not because of he was doing what he did, but perhaps because of he came from a certain class of people. That's the only explanation we can say. But moral bankruptcy in our country, the Gambia, we should not sit by and be so complicit. We know, look at in West Coast region, Yankuba Dabo, he came and did wonderful. Within the first 100 days, he was able to keep his head above water. Up to date, we have seen people there who are turning that institution as a family kaboodle, a family enterprise. That should be the one thing that everybody should join together, including Mr. Adama Barrow himself. But like I said, this is the one person who do not believe in anything except pettiness. This is the one person who would only put his mouth and hand in anywhere that is in the contravention and disposition of progress in our country. It is not good. It's not going to tell well about the kids and the future generation of our country. Our security sector. The security sector has become an amateur. For the past 22, 23 years, we have seen things have turned from right to worse. And that right towards we have constituted a commission of inquiry into the Gambia to say that all those bad governance and all those right violation abuses should stop. But all of those things are coming all over again. They are happening, and in fact, as a matter of fact, they became worse than before. That is disservice to country, because we would expect every security apparatus, all the security forces that are in our country, be it your army, police, immigration, prison services, and all the other partners should try to do the right thing. And doing the right thing is the best thing to be able to tell truth to power. To tell truth to power when you see it. When you see somebody has been violated, has been paper sprayed, has been baton, has been hit here and there, tear gas. Those are the same thing that we frown at when Yahya Jammeh was doing. And up till today, these are happening in our country. It is a shame, and all the security forces that are doing it must be told that the day of reckoning is coming. And make no mistake, this time around, nobody is going to be excused when the commission is constituted. Not even a religious leader would come and tell Gambians to say that let us forgive one another, because we have seen torture. The highest degree of torture we have seen. The highest degree of the human rights violations we have seen. And now the same thing is happening, and nobody is willing to talk about it or to tell the president that what you're doing is wrong. At the end of the day, if people have decency as a people, they need to come out and condemn everything that happens in their country. Just like what is happening in Senegal. The Senegal that we know has been headed by Macky Sall is different from the Senegal that we have today, where there is supposed to be the rule of law, democracy, and fundamental human rights. But today in Senegal, all the democratic gains have come to dictatorship. And this is also another recipe for conflict, because you cannot think that a presidency is your family enterprise, your father's property. At the end of the day, the people, the person that the Senegalese people want to make president, you just frame him, put all sort of bogus charges on him here and there, yet still you cannot undersign him. Even if you as of now, you put him in prison, he became even more popular than you, the president. That's the power of the people and the power of what God can do. These are recipes for conflict in our countries. And make no mistake, you sit at your corner, you think that Senegal is going through this turmoil, no one is talking, you think that it is Senegal. Senegal has a problem, Gambia would be doomed. Macky Sall needs to be arrested, to be put even in a barrel and put at the bottom of the sea. Because him alone, getting out of that place, just for once, would save the life of thousands of Senegalese. But today, how many Senegalese are languishing in prison? Just because you have the power to be at the presidency, so therefore you can do anything you want. This is why Africa cannot get out of conflict in our countries. And we have people who are very economical in telling the truth. They don't even want to tell the truth. Macky Sall's father doesn't own Senegal. He should not bar Ousmane Sonko from running as president, because the people of Senegal chose Ousmane Sonko. And come February, whether 25th, Ousmane Sonko would be declared president in their country. You cannot be a self-hater. You cannot be so disgusting until you hate yourself. That is what Macky Sall is doing. He is anti-himself to the detriment of Senegalese people. What is the Senegalese army doing and police? Macky Sall is one person who can be caged and arrested and put at a corner, 2x4. You know? Same thing happening in our country, in the Gambia, where lawlessness has become the order of the day, where people who do not know how to read and write would be steering the affairs of our country, and we think business would go as usual, everything would remain as the same. That is the madness happening in our country. You want to demolish roads here and there. You want to demolish anything close by the road. Yes, that's a laudable effort. But before you do that, you would have to do your due diligence, do the analysis, do the survey, and make sure that the people that are affected are informed cordially, and also you try to provide something for them so that when you come to demolish their stuff, you provide some other alternative for them. But if you don't do this, you are doing something that would not yield any dividend. And the Gambian people, we are very good at doing something rashly. We just jump up and do stuff. At the end of the day, it will just stop right there. We need longevity in anything we do. We need to do something that would yield impact. If you are making road, make one good standard road for the people of the Gambia so that we can benefit from those roads. At the end of the day, it would take almost close to 50 good years without going back to make those things. Because the resources of our country, which are so meager, what we put into those roads, that could otherwise be pumped into our healthcare, our agriculture, our education. So these are the facts. Any project that we do as Africans or as Gambians, we politicize everything. Even you lay down a foundation stone, you send a president there going there as if they are just so low-lifers. A president can delegate the Minister of Infrastructure to go and lay down a foundation. For crying out loud. The president needs to focus his eyes on governance. But nope. Politics has just mesmerized our head. We become just so consumed into that, and we cannot even do anything good for the greater good of our country. The youths of our country, the women, the infants, the children of our country, where almost 75 to 80 babies have been killed in that country, and we think business goes as usual. That is how insensitive the government of Mr. Adama Barrow is. People will do something, and they are not wholly accountable. Nobody is wholly accountable for any wrongdoing in Adama Barrow's government. Because this is the guy who thinks that, you know, he can sit in the Gambia after presidency. That is the biggest foolery of the century. As we speak, the pertinent issues in our country, things that matters most. Our health care, we have to revamp it, redeem, recalibrate, and rejuvenate it. Our health sector. Our education, everything in the Gambia needs to be restructured. When you say this thing, they say, oh, you people in overseas, this, that, and that. No, we have seen what greatness means and looks like. So therefore, as a people, you wish our countries are just like the United States of America. We wish our countries are other part of Europe where you do not have to be poor in order to be treated when you get sick in your own countries. That is how much we want for our country to be in the same stage. We want people of the Gambia, when you retire, you are able to have a pension, something to rely on at the end of the month, whereby that would not cease. We want a country where our agriculture can be mechanized, where people do not have to go and look for government jobs, because they know that the agriculture, the yield, the productivity, the produce in the agri sector would feed them for the rest of their life and will change their lives for good. These are the type of things we wish for our country to be. But for 58 good years since 1965, the Gambia is still at a zero pace. The same old thing, the same old thing, it will continue to be for good. It does seem to me sometimes that Gambia doesn't have any educated people then. Because if we cannot think outside the box to change that small country, that smallest country, less than 3 million people, is almost 2.5 million now, is about 2,006,000 people only. Yet still, we cannot make any changes in our own countries. That is disservice to country. Make no mistake, as a people, when we put a blind eye to some of these things where society would benefit, then our existence becomes zero. We become a nobody. And at the end of the day, like I said, the police would be good at arresting people because they commit murder, but the government institutions which are holding and running the affairs of our countries are the most culprits in killing people in mass numbers. Because your inefficiency at the health sector, and so many people die just because they do not have the resources to treat themselves, or they don't have the fare from the suburb of the country to come into the hospital. You contribute to the killing of those people indirectly, because it is a government's responsibility to take care of the welfare and well-being of the people. You fail to do that, you are equally as a murderer than somebody who takes a gun and pops somebody's head to death. These are the ills of our society, and we think that conflict will end in our countries. And this is why Africa as a country, and the Gambia, which is part of West Africa, has been a delayed country. Simply because all those people who come and run the government, they would just sit there at the detriment of the others, looting, corrupting themselves, and try to think that life goes as usual. How do they go to sleep? How do they sleep? We have seen a container full of drugs go into our country. Sober countries would have mounted an investigation into those matters, because they know a drug-infested country would become a horrible and a terrible country. At the end of the day, the youthful population of those countries would become decapitated. There wouldn't be any future for those people. We have seen ministers who are complicit in bribery, corruption, and immoral attitude in that government, but they're still there. That is how low some of our government officials are. But the worst of the worst is, in all of this, we politicize everything, and we think that women in our country would be used as clapping tools or tools for our political paraphernalias. to be used when it is time for politics, and we just dump them when politics ends because we cannot meet the demands of their needs. That is disservice to country. And the women folks should be very careful now to know that there should be a new business order of the day. Anybody you put in power, you have to assess them. You should not only be clapping and clapping for them, dancing for them. At the end of the day, when they are in power, they cannot even provide you with a mosquito net. And malaria would start to kill you only in the Gambia. So at the end of the day, we need to hold our leaders accountable. We cannot all be in the same political party. We cannot have the same political leaning. But at the end of the day, we have to look what is good for the country and go in for that. The draft constitution is there. Over 100 and something million spent on that. But that has been thrown away simply because somebody has a vested interest in that, which is Mr. Adama Barrow. And now we have seen the same Mr. Adama Barrow brought a life after presidency bill, came back to the parliament. And now they say they approve that. And the worst of all about that bill is, how do you get rewarded about something that you have not worked for? You see how backward Africa is? How intertwined our minds are? Because you, the National Assembly members who sat there because of political leaning, you just sat there and think that, oh, okay, I have to vote for this just because my party leader has a vested interest in that. How do you sleep? What conscience do you have? At the end of the day, Mr. Adama Barrow is not an ex-president yet. But you saying that the ex-president would be paid equally the same amount of money that he is getting, and his wife and all the other people will be paid. Where in the world did they see a president's wife being paid for something? And all your dental and retirement plan, you'll be flown over to overseas. How dare you people? That is another form of looting the coffers of the state, because you cannot be rewarded for something that you do not work for. That is how disgraceful this thing is. Because when it goes to the National Assembly, those people embark on nothing but political razzmatazz or political bickering. To say that just because I belong to a different political party, now I will just do this to provoke the other people. It's not right. Don't you believe in the future of your kids yet unborn? To be like that can be a stumbling block for their progress, because how many more presidents are we going to have? Ex-presidents. So you want to tell me if those people leave office, we have to pay them full salary. That is how low their mindsets are. Very greedy. Disservice to country. At the end of the day, make no mistake, the Gambia belongs to the Gambian people. It's not the family enterprise or entity of Mr. Adama Barrow. And Gambians are very good at saying that, oh, yes, let us leave him, ex-president, this, that. But you have to do something that would last. You have to focus. Gambia, what is our economy like? In the next 10, 50 years, we have another, how many more presidents? Is that thing sustainable? This is how other countries are able to transcend. And we have never had anywhere in the world where a former president or even a sitting president's wife would be paid salary. Gambia, this is disgraceful. As if no one in that National Assembly, because the fact that you form a majority, you can just upset the status quo of the country. It's not cool. That is how disgraceful, that is how they dislike Gambian people. That they just want to take care of themselves. But Mr. Adama Barrow and gang, the National Assembly members who voted for this, make no mistake, we will repeal this version of the Constitution because it's going nowhere. We will prosecute Mr. Adama Barrow for all the right violations he has done in the Gambia, for all of his lack of action in trying to do the right thing by clamping down on corruption and corrupt practices, institutional dysfunctionality, and institutional coup d'etats. Because if you violate the rights and liberties of our own institution, the instruments that are there to protect everybody, then that is another form of coup d'etat. What does our leaders take us for? At the end of the day, Mr. Adama Barrow is not the only person who can rule the Gambia. In fact, he is the least qualified to rule the Gambia. But as if the Gambian people have no knowledgeable people who can just go and help salvage the situation. We thought Yahya Jammeh was horrible, but Adama Barrow is worse. And nobody is saying this. Some religious leaders look at Senegal. Religious leaders are trying to talk and speaking truth to power. Why can't our religious leaders do the same thing? And we say about 96% of our country people say they are Islamic. They are religious. They belong to the Islamic faith. And when it comes to telling truth to power, everybody just don't want to make the power to be angry at them.
Not all of it. That makes sense.
So, this is a cause for concern. The Gambia is at a crossroad. We can have a fundamental disagreements. We do not have to like each other, in fact. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the Gambia, that is what we have. We need to defend the Gambia for the Gambian people and the future yet unborn, to make sure that we leave a Gambia, a legacy that when they come, they would be proud to talk good about us. But the type of Gambia we are seeing today is a Gambia that no kid would want to be born in, where they would call home. Because there is lots of violations of rights of the people after the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission. That is the biggest joke of the century. And this is what I said. When comes the next Truth Commission, no religious leader should be listened to for saying reconciliation. No. The police must have learned from their mistake when they were serving Yahya Jammeh, brutally killing their very own people. We thought that would be a thing of the past, but today it is worse. So the police, not only they do not know, they know it, but they are serving with impunity in our country. And that is the worst of all. We will prosecute all of you and put you behind bars to make sure that the value system of the people, the life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for the people of the Gambia need to be respected. And you call yourselves police officers or paramilitary officers without knowing that you come from homes. You come from regions. You come from communities. Yet still you just want to cause more harm and mayhem to the people of the Gambia. You have not learned from anything. Nothing. And last thing before I go, our police institution need to remove themselves from politics. This is why in the draft constitution, the police would be answerable to themselves. No president can fire a police inspector general of police without the parliamentary scrutiny. No president can fire the chief of defense staff of the army without a parliamentary scrutiny. What is best than that? All these service sector leaders, they are head, the president cannot fire them. But we as Gambians, sometimes when God is praying for us, we just beg God to bring more mayhem on us. Simply because most people don't believe in what they say. When your neighbor's house is in fire, you are in fire. Isn't that what we were told? But at the end of the day, you look at it, we take pride in saying that I am the only one giving this and giving that and giving this and that. Even though when you know that it is from the state resources, you should say the government of the Gambia has donated this, that and that. But they keep saying, President Adama Barrow did this or did that and did that. He doesn't have anything. This man was very poor like a church mouse. He used to be very poor with cracked lips and feet. So when did he get money? Now he stole so much money in the country that now he became wealthy enough. What is the yardstick we can evaluate when he was coming? What does he have? Nothing. Nothing, absolutely. So we have to stop the self-hate and focus on solving our common challenges in our country. And today our common challenges in our country, the biggest one is corruption. We need to put everybody behind bars, whoever is found wanting to be corrupt and involved in corrupt practices. They all need to go. They are not even fit for purpose because through them so many people were able to die in that country because of having lack of resources, access to resources, healthcare, education. Is it fair? So this is why the topic peace resolution and conflict resolution and peace building is very important. But all of these are conflicts in our society today. You become too corrupt, that is putting a dysfunctional society because somebody is gonna be exploded, gonna be very unhappy, and they would sow resentment on the society, on the government, and there, at the end of the day, problem will come. That is how problems build up gradually, slowly, and slowly but surely until it reaches the conflict level. Corruption has become a new form of religion in the Gambia today. Because you ask people in the Gambia, some of them should be telling them that I belong to a religion called corruption. Because that's how some people feed their families, put up big houses. At the end of the day, those houses one day would be consumed by natural disaster or calamity. It is as simple as that because God is watching out for the common man, the poor people of the Gambia. No matter how much big houses you build, It will all come down because we will set up commissions of inquiry into the affairs of those things. When change of government comes, we will turn them into government institutions. We will make them as military barracks, or we will make it a paramilitary unit. Keep stealing. Because we have seen all of you before you came. Some of you have big feet with cracks all over your feet. Your lips, they crack. Even when you open your mouth, blood comes out. We have seen all of you. Very rugged. You don't even have good clothes to wear. But at the end of the day, today, you became very wealthy in this country. How did that wealth come about? We will account for every penny that everyone accumulated over the space of time to make sure that what has been done to Yahya Jammeh will continue to be done to anybody, including myself, in that country. Whatever you have to earn it through your sweat and hard-earned money. But we know central government don't pay. How comes you are just putting up those things with hefty bank account when you know you cannot even buy a shoe or a pair of underwear for yourself before you became a minister or a president? And now you are throwing millions all over anywhere when our roads are not good. Our roads are not good. There are no road signs. Nothing, absolutely. Institutions, local government authorities that are working so hard to alleviate the suffering of the Gambian people. Now the central government became a stumbling block to that. What a disservice to country. In this country, the Republicans and Democrats, they have difference of fundamental disagreements. But when it comes to country, they all sit at the same table, look at the future of their kids, and make sure that, okay, for the good of the United States of America, we will agree to salvage the country. Why not Gambia?
Did you stop my timer?
Why not Gambia?
No, I had the timer on.
We have to stop politics. Everything politic. We politicize everything. That is not good. It should not. And we just have to think twice. There are so many things to be brought at the table of the National Assembly as a certificate of urgency than the ex-president's bill. That is the height of stupidity in its own entirety. But you know, we're not making much noise about it, like I said. That will be repealed. You know, their knowledge base is very low. They think that when that is passed, it's a foregone conclusion. No. That bill would be the first bill to repeal when the next president comes. Because Gambia does not have that money. Let Adamak Barrow go and pay his own wives when he leaves presidency, but not the Gambia government paying them. When he is president, we are not paying them. Why would the Gambia government pay them when they are out of office? Even Adamak Barrow, as the ex-president, should get maybe some kind of a pay, but not in this exorbitant, unthinkable amount. That is disservice to country. It means for him, he can rob the country while the other poor people sit in Fatoto and suffer on a daily basis, where they would feed on breadcrumbs. That is how insensitive our leaders are. They become more corrupt and corrupt on a daily basis. That's why they will all, God is doing the fight for Gambia. If you steal too much, God will fight for Gambia. You will not survive your money. Your money would be here while you go. It has come to that. or while you are in office, God will paralyze you. You become a nobody. You cannot, everybody would begin to run away from you. God is doing this fight for Gambia now because the leaders who we put in those positions have become like some sort of human beings, because all of them were as poor as church mouse. They have one day gone to bed without food, without breakfast or dinner or lunch. But today you want to act like you don't know what poverty is like. So the poor people who live in that abject poverty 365 days a year, how do you feel for them? A word for a wise should be enough. Our country is at a crossroad. Those people are at the National Assembly, the inexperience of them, because before you vote for a bill, there are things that you should look at. But voting for a bill, you think that Yahya Jammeh was going to benefit from that, when in actual time you know that Yahya Jammeh cannot, because Gambia is looking for Yahya Jammeh. The United Nations is looking for Yahya Jammeh. The Ghanaians are looking for the Yahya Jammeh. So Yahya Jammeh is the world is going after Yahya Jammeh to prosecute him. In order to prosecute him, some of the people think that we are now paying him. It doesn't work like that. You work for something that you earn, but you cannot be paid when you don't go to work. It's just like that. But the indifference in our National Assembly needs to stop. At the end of the day, most of those bills that come there, it gets voted in massively by the National Assembly members of the National People's Party, simply because to them, they think that when they vote for those things, they are provoking United Democratic Party. That is how unpatriotic they are. Their mindset is glued to the mindset of Mr. Adama Barrow, thinking that everything he should be just making loud noise. How many roads are there? How many babies were killed in our hospitals and the health minister refused to resign? Where is his conscience? If those babies were his kid or his mother or wife, how would he feel? The insensitivity in our country is just crazy. We have to be very sensitive, because we put value to something that is very deplorable in society. So conflict here and there, corruption is conflict. Looting is conflict. Stealing stuff that doesn't belong to you brings conflict, because the less disadvantaged people will always want to get up and become very agitated. It is so shameful to think sometimes the level of ignorance that is going on in that country. And sometimes people know all the things that are happening, but still they do not mind. They say, oh, this is Gambia. Unless we change the mindset and our own attitude, nothing shall work in that country. On that note, I thank you very much. My name is 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒏, Ceesay, United States of America. Bye.